Guys, this is Christine Bertram, and it is Tuesday. So that means it's time for a Tip Tuesday. And last week I talked to you about the color combo charts and how that if you're struggling to know what colors go with other Stampin' Up! Colors, you could use those color combo charts that I did save on the Cards by Chris B website. Not Crispy, Chris B. Like not like a Rice Krispie, out on the Cards by Chris B website. If you go to the blog and news link, there's a section for newsletters, and that's where I throw all my PDFs that you guys can find, like my schedule. And so if you go there, that's where I have the color combo chart saved. But I had promised you last week that I was going to talk to you about coloring. How do you color things? How do you use your different inks? And I've been getting this asked actually quite regularly, like, what do you use for coloring when? What's the difference between this and this? And so I'm not going to necessarily go into lots of different techniques with you, but I want to share with you different mediums for coloring. So I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm going to watch the time. And if we get to be about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm going to break it into a second episode that will air next week for you guys. So there might be a 2-part series here, and who knows, it might be even 3 parts depending on how much coloring I want to talk about. So you know me, I have the gift of gab. So so we're gonna get the party started and talk to you about different coloring mediums. And so I did my homework, you guys. I made a list. So let's put the camera down so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I made myself a list. Oh, let's put this camera up a little better, like maybe that. Okay, cool. So I actually did my homework, you guys, and I actually worked on this with Carissa a couple weeks ago. We went through and we were trying to think of all the different ways that you could color. And you guys, this is not an all-inclusive list. I know there's much more out there. I wanted to give you guys some bread and butter, different coloring mediums, and how you can use different inks. Look at me, I have this whole pile of stuff here to show you. And I wanted to start off with going through the Stampin' Up! Catalog too, to show you where you can find things. And I am not an expert in all things like this thing, and you can see that mine have never even been used, but I'm going to talk about them and tell you a little bit about what I know about them. So you guys, what I want to cover for this coloring series is different ways that you can add color to your paper. And there's blending brushes, there's sponge daubers. Stampin' Up! Even had these sponges and they just retired them, but you may have them and I'll talk about them. You can use blending pens, you can use watercolored pencils, aqua painters, you can use blends like this. You could use these pastels for coloring. Stampin' Write markers, you know, those are another coloring medium. Stella pen can be used to color. She is a woman of many talents and she can color for you. Just using re-inkers by themselves with some baby wipes is another way that you can add color to projects. So all of that in a nutshell is how you can add color to different things. And you want to know, well, what's the difference between this and what's the difference between this, and then coloring with this versus this. And so I'm going to go one by one and kind of talk to you about them. And I even have card samples, you guys. I went over to my stockpile of cards and I pulled out different examples that were used with the different coloring mediums. So I've got no rhyme or reason to how we're going to do this, except for I'm going to try to teach you what I know in a couple Tip Tuesdays. So you guys, I'm in the annual catalog. It looks like this. It's Stampin' Up! You guys. And they have a page, a color spread in here with their color collections. So I'm on pages 122 and 123. They have different families of colors. So the brights, neutrals, regals, subtles, basics, and then they always have some rotating in colors that are on a 2-year rotation. So this one ends this coming April or May, and then these will stick around for the following year, and then they'll bring in another set. And when you come in here, you can look at ink pads. So they have cardstock, ink pads, the re-inkers, and then what they have here are blends. When you have the blends, those are the alcohol-based markers. I'll actually go through and use them on some paper in a bit, but I wanted to show you where you can find them in the catalog. So it has the color, and it has what it is you can purchase, and sometimes there's a dash. If you look at this closely, there are no Mango Melody blends. There are no Coastal Cabana. There are no Pacific Point Gorgeous Grape. So if you see a dash, they don't have some blends that go with it. Sad face, I know. The yellow gets me going the most because there's really only one yellow, Daffodil Delight, because they don't have Mango Melody, they don't have Crushed Curry. They do have So Saffron, but they don't have Bumblebee. So from what I understand, if you're wondering why they don't have some blends in some of the colors, what I understand is they're so close in color that if they would make them, they would look almost identical. So they picked and chose which ones were the best bang for your buck. And so that's why there's So Saffron and Daffodil. Apparently a dark daffodil would be really close to a light mellow mango melody. So, okay. So that's why they don't have grape, but you guys, they have Blackberry Bliss and they have Highland Heather. So, and then Fresh Freesia's in there. So hopefully with the colors that they have, you can get a nice cross selection of the different colors. So on pages 122 through 123, you can find the blends, the re-inkers. So re-inkers are what you can use for, oh my gosh, that one is leaking. You can see it. I look like I'm bleeding, but I'm not. And I can see where the culprit's coming from. Okay, so they have re-inkers, and let's not get ink all over, but those are the re-inkers. And then there's like ink pads here that you guys can use as well. And that one's got ink on it too. So I pulled out the different colors of like different mediums that you can use. So if you flip the page then, and you go to this next section, which is on page 126, this is where they have the assortments that you can buy. So the markers, you cannot buy these individually. They have to be purchased by the color family. I know, sad. They used to have the markers that you could buy them all individually for like $3. And then, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago when they realigned the colors, they put them into groupings of the families. And going back to the blends here really quick, you guys, these come as a combo pack. You buy them as a set. They come a light color and a dark color. They used to sell them individually, but they showed that the sales were not very high on individual markers. Most people were buying them in the combo set. So when you get a combo pack for $9, you get 2 of them. For the markers, again, you get 10 markers, 1 of each color. So you would get all the colors in the family. So these colors, 1 marker set. So all 4 families. And then they have the ink colors are available with the markers. Now, these are called Stampin' blends. These are called Stampin' Write markers. These are water-based. These are alcohol-based. Depending on which one you're using, you use a certain ink with them as well, which I'll talk about when we get to more in-depth detail. So this is where you'll find the markers. This is where you'll also find the bundles of the re-inkers. So for these guys, you can buy them in a bundle and save 10%, or you can buy them individually back on these couple pages. This is also where you could get the whole pack of markers in a case, all of them. There's, shouldn't say all of them. All of the color families up here, they do not include, it says all 40 colors of the family. So 4 families times 10. There is extra space in this case to add the ink colors if you like. This page also shows where you can find the pastels and the watercolor pencils. So I am amazed. I think 2 weeks ago I took the plastic off of this. I am not a pastel kind of girl. It's like chalks, you guys. If they're calling them pastels, in my book, they're chalks. Chalk gives me the shiver me timbers because it's like chalk on nails, nails on a chalkboard, I should say. So it's my I just gave myself goosebumps, like even opening that up and looking at them. So I don't use them very often. I'm going to talk about them though. The watercolor pencils, there's 2 different assortments. It talks about an assortment 1 and an assortment 2. One is more than the other because one has more pencils in, okay? So these are watercolor pencils. I'll show you a little trick with using them and then going over the top with a blender pen. That was page 126. If we keep moseying onto this page, spread here, 128 through 129. These are different tools you can add for getting color. Oh, I didn't even pull the paste, but we can talk about that too. I'll pull the paste just in case. Let's see here. There's different pastes that you can add color to. So we'll talk about that. I'll set them out here so I don't forget about them. So paste. There's also on this page, it talks about where you have your stays on permanent ink and refills, your memento and refills. You have blending brushes. You have your, what are they called? Water painters. They used to be called aqua painters. They're called water painters. So I may refer to them as aqua painters, guys. Just an old habit. This is where your blender pen. So they come in a pack of 3. This is where you'll find your sponge daubers. And oh, these little inks here too. I don't know if I have any of these uninked spots, but I can show you. You guys, when you watch the paper pumpkin videos, hang on one second. When you guys watch the paper pumpkin videos, then Kelly or I will bring these out, and when you get a paper pumpkin, you get these little babies. They're adorbsy. This one's what came in one of the past paper pumpkins. You can buy these uninked, and then if you want to, so it's like $10, $9 for 5 of them, and then you could buy the re-inker and ink them up yourself if you don't want to take up as much space as a big ink pad. Okay, so those are the little babies. All right, I think that covers everything that is right in front of me and for what we could use for coloring in colors. So you guys, if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that you work with, if you're not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator as well, and you need one of these catalogs, reach out to me. I can help you get a catalog in your hands so that you can see it. I'm a paper person. I like to see the catalog right in front of me. Oh my gosh. You guys, there's like blue ink right there. All right, so let's get to it. So we're gonna go over one thing, I think, because it's already been 12 minutes and we talked about what is all in front of me. So I'm gonna talk the main thing I think people have questions on are the blends versus the Stampin' Write markers. What's the difference, right? When do you use these and when do you use these? Well, I will be 150% completely honest with you. I very rarely use these for coloring, the water-based markers. I love how the blends color. They are meant for coloring and giving you tone, not tone, but like light and dark. So I have a card here that you can totally tell. So that was totally, haha. I didn't mean to say totally 3 times, but you can tell the difference here. How it's darker in the corners and then it gets lighter. That's what you can do with blends. The blends allow you to get that two-tone look is what I was looking for, okay? And here, I didn't do the two-tone look. I just colored them, that pie, I just colored it all the light crumb cake. But on the pedestal, you can see it's darker in the corners. It gives you shading. That's what blends can do for you. So we're gonna talk about blends and markers here and show you some examples. So these are coloring with blends. You guys, I just did the Harvest Meadow class and I used the blends to color the coneflowers. Like I used 2 different colors, the bronze and the cider there. Daffodil got mixed with coral. So that's what's awesome with the blends is coloring. Now, when you use the blends, you always want to put something underneath while you color. I have a wood table upstairs in my craft room, and I find that if I color directly onto the wood table, that it gets wet and damp, and then it soaks up the whatever is the topping on my table, the varnish or whatever. So when you're using the blends, they're alcohol-based. So when you're using alcohol-based markers, you want to use a water-based ink pad. They won't run then, or bleed. So you're using a water-based with alcohol markers. And if you're going to be using water-based markers or water-based blends, water-based-ish blending, that's where you'd want to pull in a permanent ink pad, like Stays On. Stampin' Up! Used to make ink pad called Archival. Archival means like permanent. So you want to use a permanent ink pad when you're using water-based stuff. So when it comes to the memento, it is, let's see if I have, of course I didn't grab an outline stamp. So let's see here. I got a perfect set here for water base. So we'll grab him out. It's not a him. You guys, everything's hymns to me. All right. And we want to grab a stamp that'll be something that we can do for coloring. So give me a second. Here. We'll do this with yellow. So I've got this lime set that was from a paper pumpkin from a while ago. And when you stamp this with Memento water base, and because it's photopolymer, I am going to grab out a piercing mat because that helps you get a nice crisp image. You stamp that, and then you can use your blends to color. So I would normally color this yellow because it is a lemon, but I'm going to show you the difference with, this is the dark Cajun Craze, and this is a light Cajun Craze. Everybody's going to tell you what they like or think is the best. I will tell you what works for me, and then you can do whatever works for you. You do you, I do me. But what works for me is doing the dark first. So you can see there's these little spots. There's little spots on there, and they look like they should have a little bit more darkness. So that's where I'm going to do the dark blend first. Okay, that looks like garbage. I know that. So, and it's supposed to be a yellow, but I'm like, well, we'll show you with the Cajun Craze. So now what I'm doing is I'm going over the entire thing, including the dark area, with the light marker. I want to show you how it works to get rid of that line. So you see I'm going over the dark just as much. Now I've done one coat. You can completely see where one meets the other. But they're blends. They're meant for going over and over until you get rid of that line. So now I've just done a second coat of the light over everything, and you can see how that line is disappearing. Now, if you want to get rid of that a little bit more, you can go over it one more time, and it'll lighten it up even more. You still see a little bit more darkness in those areas, but the lines have gone away. Now, that is a really, really rotten lime or lemon. I would definitely not eat this, but I hope that you could see how it worked to do I like to do the dark first, and then I do the light over the top. Now, there's one other tool that the blends have, and it's something called a color lifter. The color lifter is not a white marker. It's actually, it helps to erase ink, to add a little spot of light to an area, and it picks up color. So if you go outside the lines, sometimes you can erase it, but what I'm gonna do is go over that section right there, and you see it doesn't put any color on my marker, but what's happening is it lightened up over there. And if you want it even lighter, what it does is it erases ink. So you can see it's really light. Now this is really cool if you have an object that you wanna, you know, like when you have a balloon and the sun is hitting it in a certain spot and it looks like, expect like this. You see that, how that light is hitting it right there and it makes it look white? That's what a color lifter can help do. It can add that lightness to it, and it lifts the color. So it's not a white marker, it lifts color. And now that looks even uglier. Don't eat it. Okay, so those are blends. When you get the blends, there's always a light and a dark. When it comes to the bronze has the counterpart is the ivory, okay? So those are alcohol markers. Now when it comes to Stampin' Write markers, those you can use Memento ink if you want to color in. Now I personally do not ever color with Stampin' Write markers. I will use blends 9.9 times out of 10. Here, I'll use the yellow. There's actually, for me, I hate the streakiness of using water-based markers. They are not meant, I hate coloring with them. I'll show you because this is what it looks like, which is garbage too. That's what happens to me when I use the water-based Stampin' Write markers to color. I love the smoothness, softness of the blends. Now you can see I used the Memento. Had I kept going over that black, it would have gotten muddy, okay? So you can use these to color, but I don't recommend it. What these water-based markers are good for is if you don't own all the stamp pads, you can actually use them as a stamp pad. So here we have my flower stamp. That is from the Simply or Elegantly Said stamp set. And you can color the flower. So what I would do, so I'm going to do my lightest one first because I don't like to contaminate my ink colors very much, like the tips. So I'm going to color the middle first with the yellow, and then I'm going to color the leaves with, this is Cherry Cobbler. I'm being really sloppy because I'm on camera and going fast, but I'm coloring the leaves. Now you don't get a really solid, nice, oh, and I just colored the leaves red too, so that's okay. But I'm gonna go over here and color this. And then lastly, I'm going to change and do this curry color for the leaves, which is not gonna be pretty, guys. It's gonna be garbage too. But here's this, and I would have done it in Old Olive, but when you're inking up your block like this or your stamp like this, it will dry. So you have to do the Hufflepuff technique is what we call it. So really, that's what you do. And it kind of moistens it or re-wets it, and you can stamp. And so it gives it a more watercolory wash look, because had you stamped that in a solid color like I'll do the Cherry Cobbler. Now, the thing is, because it's a stamp that has 2 different colors or 3 different colors that you want to put in it, that's where the markers work out great. Where if you're using the same color for the whole thing, I would definitely go straight to the ink pad, because look at the difference here. Well, here, I'm going to do it. So that was copy paper. You guys never stamp on copy paper unless you're practicing. Use Whisper White, the basic white paper. It just looks crisper, cleaner, darker. So this is what, so you see it looks not as solid when you use the markers, and here it looks more solid, okay? Here's an example of a card that was from the Elegantly Said class where we did do the blackberry or raspberry with yellow and green. That's the stamp right here, coloring it. So there is another sample for you to see. So that's where these are water-based markers. You can color your stamps with them to color them a mixture of different colors. You never, ever, ever want to use these permanent markers. They're permanent. So they're alcohol blends. They're like a Sharpie kind of. Like, they will stain your stamp. So heed of warning, do not use these to color your stamps. Water-based only, okay? So basically what we did here is just, the question I get the most is what you use for coloring when between these 2 types of markers. This you have to buy the whole pack of the family to get the 10. These you can buy individually as combos by color. So individual colors, buy a combo pair. So you can pick and choose. People ask, well, what colors should I start off with getting when I want to start getting my collection of blends? It's a really good question, you guys. What I would say to do when you're getting your collection of blends, well, it depends what season we're in too. Going into the summer, I always recommend like a Daffodil Delight and some sort of a purpley or a pink, and Cherry Cobbler is great, Garden Green is great. A blue is good. So Night of Navy or Pacific Point. You guys, a black one is generally nice too. This whole in color family down here is amazing. But if you had to pick like 5 to start off with, a yellow, a pinkish or a purple, a green, oh my gosh, a brown. I use this bronze one. There's a bronze ivory pack. I use the bronze a lot for when I want brown things. That would be a good pack. Grays are good too. If you like more cools when you're coloring versus warms, go for the smoky slate. If you want more warm, go for the crumb cake. Old Olive is a good traditional green as well. So, you know, if you're going to start off, I'd start off with some of those more primary colors, and then you can always add to them. So, okay, that was a lot for Color 101 Part 1. So I think what we'll do is we'll end here, guys, and I'm going to leave you hanging on the edge of a cliff waiting for the next one, which will be something else. And then you guys, I have this feeling that this will be broken into 2 more series, I mean, like 2 more in the series. So there'll be a total of 3 is what I'm thinking. So we'll see what happens in the next section, or the next the next section of the series. All right, you guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Make sure to catch Kelly on Thursday for her Technique Thursday. Oh, you guys are gonna love it, because I'm looking at her card right now, and I think she used an awesome technique for coloring, which I'm going to be sharing with you in either the next series, like the next section, or the following section, you guys. So you'll see like you'll feel like deja vu when you see her card and then you see me do the coloring technique. So, or explaining the coloring. So, and then we'll see you Thursday night for class. All right. Love you guys. Sunshine, love, hugs to you. Bye.